Xi'an City Wall is located in the urban district of Xi'an City, which at one time was imperial city during the periods of Sui and Tang dynasties. It is situated at the end of the ancient Silk Road. Xi'an City Wall represents one of the oldest, largest, and best preserved Chinese city walls. It was built under the rule of Emperor Zhou as a military defense system. It exhibits the complete features of the rampart architecture of feudal society. It has been refurbished many times since it was built in the 14th century, thrice at intervals of about 200 years in the later half of the 1500s and 1700s. And in recent years, in 1983, the wall encloses an area of about 14 square kilometers. Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I painted the Xi'an City Wall and its timeless beauty. Alright, before we dive in, I've got something that always kinda amazed me. Did you know that 65% of you who watch regularly haven't hit the subscribe button yet? I mean, if you're here, it probably means you like what I'm doing, right? So can I ask you a quick favor? If you enjoy the channel, if it's something you look forward to, the simplest free way to support me is just by hitting the subscribe button. And here's my promise to you. If you subscribe, I'll do everything in my power to make this channel better for you every single week. I'll listen to your feedback, try new things, and make sure it's worth your time. And let's get started, everyone. As for the supply goes, I'm using bovine watercolor cold press watercolor paper, 300 GSM, and you can use any watercolor paper you want. And for the paints, I'm using Winsor Newton professional grade watercolor paints. Again, it's up to you. You can use any watercolor paints or paper you want, and this is what I use. Now we know what supplies we are using, and let's go back to the sketching part. For sketching, it's really hard to give tips and tricks to get better at sketching. There's one thing that which kind of helped me is like letting go while sketching, and even it doesn't look like the reference you are working from, you don't have to be exactly 100% there, because as a painters, and I also say this in every video, as a painter we are telling a story and it's your story, so you can express however you want, even if something is, you know, a little bit right or the left, the buildings, so be it, because it's your painting. Just express it freely and don't get caught up with it. And that's where a lot of my students make mistakes, you know, try to get each individual things, everything perfect. But if you paint like that, you won't have fun and it will take forever and you won't enjoy the process of painting. So the other tip I could give is like always start with the bigger shapes first, the primary shapes, the secondary shapes, and the tertiary shapes. As far as the Euro part in our reference is the building by itself. This kind of looks like a castle which is in front of us, and the secondary shapes are the buildings which is in the midground and the rest of it. Okay, let's get into the first wash. First wash is really crucial in watercolors because it just sets up your values. In watercolors, you always start with a lightest wash first, and you slowly build up to the darkest wash. Whereas in other medium, it's kind of the other way around. You start with dark, then slowly go to the light. And usually, when I do the first wash, it's usually the big shape first. So the bigger shape in our reference, the sky. And the next, I like to connect with the ground by itself. And you can also see that I'm also putting some this orange, kind of like yellowish in Indian yellow in my mix. So the reason being is it's going to act as a light at the bottom of it. Again, as I said, we start with a light wash and slowly build it up. And you can see that before it dries out, I'm adding the details for the background right away. So that way, since our wash is wet, it's going to give this really easy distance for the buildings. Again, if you see the reference, the buildings are literally on a tangent with intersecting with the building itself. But I kind of moved it around in a such a way that to create a really nice impactful composition. And I also noticed that my washes kind of looked a little bit dull, and I just did another wash on top of it. Now you can see that I'm slowly building up the value. I'm not rushing to it. Okay, let's paint a building now, and you could see that I'm calling this a building, but it's a tower. They call it drum tower, and this could be a clock tower too. And this is on top of the Xi'an wall, which spans across all over the city. And as you guys showed in the intro, I gave a little bit of the video showcasing these buildings. And you could see that when I paint this kind of buildings, I look into the colors and I try to combine into every single shape. And if you try to paint each individual colors, and it does looks like it's broken up. So in watercolors, that's why we have to use the concept of blending things together. There's one more mistake I did. I don't know if you guys noticed it. When I was painting it, I would have left the white part by itself. This is where a lot of people make noises, or I made a mistake, I don't want to keep on continue, but I usually keep pursuing it and I keep going, because when I finish this painting, you would be surprised, a lot of people even notice it. Okay, now let's focus on the midground buildings, and because I kind of painted the foreground building, this is kind of like a wash where I can see where everything goes. And you can see that I kind of had the midground buildings really fast. It's just two shapes. Again, it looks different, but I kind of moved it around so that it kind of takes us into the painting. It kind of creates this dynamic composition. And I'm also thinking about perspective as well. And you can see that I'm also adding the left side of it, and I'm trying to add the perspective. And again, I'm also leaving some white bits for the figures. Now I'm adding some details using orange tint. Okay, now let's create some contrast for the drum tower. And you can see that as soon as I introduce a little bit of the darker values in my drum tower, and you can see that things started looking three-dimensional. So adding contrast is really important, because if I left the wash as it is, the first wash, and you can see that how flat looking at the bottom as well. But now I'm slowly building it up, and as soon as I'm building it up, you can see that everything comes alive. And these are the doors which is inside. I'm kind of building it up. The one thing you can also see that it was a little bit lighter, so as soon as I add the darker value, I'm adding another value on top of it to create that contrast. And now I'm kind of adding those pillar details, which is on the right and left. And this is the part where I kind of like left it as it is, and now I went and filled it in. I should have fixed it, but it's fine. I will persevere and I'll keep going. And now I'm kind of adding the darker pillars, which is kind of looks like a reddish wood. And in this Xi'an buildings, they also rebuild a lot of the structures because it's really old. It's like kind of like 2,000 years old clock towers here. Okay, let's add some contrast for the bottom building, and I'm going to use the same concept as the top building. It just, when you think about contrast, I don't like saying adding a darker value because it kind of thinks that in watercolors you can go darker, but you can't go super dark, and that's one thing I don't kind of like it. So that's why I always, when I make a video, I say contrast. So contrast nothing but light and darks, and that also creates depth in watercolor as well, and that's what we are doing now. And you can see that that's the exact same thing. I'm going to add a darker value for the windows, which the light is peeking through, and before it dries out, I'll add the darker value on top of it. And you can also see that at the back, I'm also adding a little bit of details, the midground buildings, because I want to connect the front ground with the background. Again, this stairs which is going down, and I have to make sure that I get the shape, and I also added a figure so that it doesn't blend as a one shape. And you can also see that I'm also adding a figure on the left hand side, which is near the drum tower itself. Okay, let's add some people in the painting. And so in Xi'an and a lot of parts of China, especially tourist areas, people dress up as like the old traditional clothing, and they take pictures. And they're all sitting there. You can see this red person, like this girl, sitting all the way at the back. But I want them to bring it in the front, so that it's kind of telling a story that, you know, they're here to take some pictures, and they're here to explore Xi'an with all those walls. And again, when I paint the figures, I make sure that the figures which are in the foreground get more details, and the rest I'll keep it to minimal, because I don't want to take away the painting just by adding a lot of characters in my scene. Okay, let's add some darker values now. We created a contrast. Now, if you want to make this more three-dimensional, and this is where you add the darker shadows. And you will see that as soon as we start adding the darker shadows, and things will fall in place. And that's how watercolor works. As I said in the beginning, you start with the lightest wash, and you slowly build up to the darkest wash as possible. And you have to, in a way that we have to take it slow and not to rush the process of watercolors, because if you rush the darker values, and it will be really hard to control it. And you can see that even like the top part of it, once I add the darker values, you can see that it looks three-dimensional. And these are like some details I want to add minus wall when I'm painting it at the top and the bottom buildings, just to get some details back in the top building and the bottom building. Okay, let's add some lights now. And this is a really amazing how they set up the lighting in Xi'an. And this was close to the sunset at night, and it looked even pretty at night, because the light kind of pops everything. It looked really amazing, and it was a nice scenery. But if you ever get a chance, I recommend go to Xi'an. And this is the first city I went to Xi'an, and I stayed there for a week, and I get to see the drum tower from far, and I also stayed at the hotel close to the drum tower as well. And now I'm kind of adding minus wall in the lighting. As soon as I add the first base of the lighting, I want to add some of the details for the tiles. So these are the tiles which kind of separates from the top to bottom, and for the top part, and it doesn't look that dark, but I'll slowly build up. So whenever I paint, I take my time to build up the darker values, not to rush it, because if you rush it, your values doesn't align, and it doesn't give that 3D quality in your work. Now we kind of created the first wash, second wash, and now let's add some tertiary details and add some darker values where I missed it. But you could see that now it kind of creates a really nice the Euro piece which is there. So now I'm going to add the lights which is on the right hand side, and you can see this red autumn color. While I was doing the first wash, when I was putting the light at the bottom building, I should have done the same thing, but I didn't do it. So now I'm going to fill it and make sure to get it back. And this architecture where they have a flag attached to the lantern, which is super complicated, but again, when I paint, I try to simplify even the tertiary details. And I should have added this earlier, But again, things which are closer to us, I'll spend more details. When things are going distance, I'll keep it to minimal. Because when people see this painting from far, and it gives the illusion of photographic quality. When I do art markets, when I do exhibition, a lot of people confused my work with photographs. Because I have to say that it's a watercolor painting and they get really surprised. So the way we could achieve it is just by making sure that just capturing the right essence in our scene. So now you can see that I kind of added this lights, and now I'm kind of adding this darker value within the lights. There's one thing in watercolor, what happens is you can't go like super light. Sometimes you have to plan it really meticulate to get it. And this is what I'm trying to do. As I said, I'm using a little bit of Chinese white with my orange in it, and I'm trying to add those details, the lights on the tiles, which is at the top as well as at the bottom. And you can see that as soon as I add that, it kind of create this really nice design from my elements, and it also looks really cool already. And I'm also adding the lights for the pillars, which is at the top and the bottom, and you can see that as soon as we add it, things started sitting on the place. Again, when you paint in watercolors, the one major thing or one recipe is to have patience. This is another part I wait till the end, is adding the eyelets. It's the exact same thing. As I said, just bringing back the lightest part. Sometimes, it's really hard to control this white eyelets, and again, I'm not exactly copying to my reference, and I'm just doing the way I want it. And you can see that as soon as we add these details, and everything comes alive, and it looks really nice already with a really good designing element. And this is how the painting looks like, and you can see that we kind of captured this really nice vertical shape of the Xi'an building. When you squint your eyes and see the painting, and all the eyes goes to this big shape which is in the foreground, and the rest I kept it to minimal. So now it's your turn. Take my reference or use your own reference and apply the techniques what I showed, and let's see what you can come up with. Thank you once again for watching this painting tutorial. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. If you have any other watercolor related topics you'd like me to cover, reach out to me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our learning community. By subscribing, you'll receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our channel, and share with your fellow artists, friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.